Adam Rye, professional FIFA player, Commonwealth Games silver medalist, travelled all over the world. I mean, you've got all the countries that you travel to in it, you've got the fucking full list. Competed at the highest level within FIFA. I believe you've got 68 caps for Scotland.
So far, I'm not done.
So far, not done. Love that. Love that. How the hell did you even end up in this position, mate, in terms of what you're doing within FIFA?
I mean, I would never have expected it to come to this. It was just sort of a hobby that ended up turning into a passion, and it was all just bashing doors down. That's the thing. So started out as a freelance journalist going to cover a FIFA event, and then sort of fell in love with it. I just kept trying to get better and better, and then a year later I was beating some of the people that were on that stage. So it's really unique, but it all came from just like taking every opportunity I could, connecting to as many people as I could, bashing down as many doors as I could to try and get my foot in the door, build relationships and stuff. And I think that's vital in business as well, as I'm learning now that I delve into entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, mate. And I think that's something that I think we may have touched on it before about, I think it's either within Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, or maybe it's another book that he speaks about how he wanted to open a bakery, and what he done in terms of like what he wanted to gather the knowledge within the bakery was that he went in and worked as a cleaner within the bakery so that he could learn the ins and outs of how they were getting stock in and actually like doing all the stuff that people don't necessarily want to do. And by the sounds of it, you love the journalism side of things, but you also put yourself in a position where not many people will be willing to do that. They'd only want to go a traditional route in terms of like just playing to get good, to then compete at a good enough level. Whereas like you put yourself like right into the trenches.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can touch on this later, but I'd say one of the biggest learnings for me in that regard was seeing when I worked for a esports company in London, a traditional 9 to 5 job. I got to see what the CEO did every day. He was leading by example. He was up at 5:30 in the gym every morning, and I saw him taking all his calls because it was an open office, and I saw the way he was engaging with people and all the work he was doing a day. And that is probably honestly what got me inspired to get into entrepreneurship, because I saw what he was doing. I was like, we've both got 24 hours in a day, but he's totally maximizing his and totally just so structured. Like, I aspire to be like that. So the CEO of London United, Ollie, is probably actually what gave me that final push to get into entrepreneurship. And that was because, as you said, being in the bakery, I got to see what happens there. I got to see how a CEO was working and his passion for his business. I was like, I really want that one day.
What was the initial push before Ollie's push?
Just like, I love the freedom of working for myself, and I think it's just, I can recognise how much value I can provide from my experience within esports, and it would be a shame to just work for one organisation or one person when I could help so many people. So it's just, I know how much value I can provide to so many people and help change people's lives, so I would rather do that than just be restricted to one thing.
Yeah. And in terms of like, you technically worked for yourself as well in terms of obviously competing. Was that something that, like, how did that feel as a whole? Like, obviously working for yourself and competing.
I think the adrenaline you get from getting results at the high level was just like the best feeling. So I was always striving for that sort of adrenaline rush and always trying to improve. And I think it stemmed from, I wanted to be a footballer, but I was never good at football. And FIFA was like that one thing in my life where I was better than everyone I knew at it, and I was just so good. Like, I found that drive. It's like, I'd say it's similar to like going to the gym. When you get the bug for it, all you want to do is improve. So just like that, it'll be the same when you get a business as well. You're always wanting to improve it. I just had that hunger and success, but I'm talking about all the high moments. There's a hell of a low moments as well that goes not talked about enough, and I think that'll be true in business as well. And I'm soon to find out some of those if I haven't already now.
And like, you spoke about how obviously like, as time went on, you developed an understanding of what it was that you needed to do at those early stages. What did you believe you needed to do in order to get on that stage and compete against the players that used to journal and journal events for?
I'm smiling already, because what I thought I needed to do was the most stereotypical stuff. So I need to drink Red Bull and I need to game for 12 hours straight and sacrifice my sleep, because if I'm not playing, there's always someone else improving, and I need to put all these hours in. I need to be playing more than them. Always need to be playing against people who are better than me, which is true. That's one of the great lessons. But 5 hours of gameplay analysis could excel me and help me improve more than 100 hours of gameplay if I'm playing with no purpose. So having the purpose, looking back at games, and the biggest lesson I've learned from gaming, which is going to be so important in business as well, is respecting my free time. So how important morning routines are and hobbies to distract myself from gaming, because when you put in all your eggs in one basket like I did with gaming, really hard to like deactivate the mind from that, and it can be so stressful because it's all you're doing, and that's what it's like in business for most people. Your business is your baby, it's your life, so naturally it's going to be hard to get away from that. And I think that's why I'm getting into business as well, because I put all my eggs into FIFA, and I don't think I reached my potential because I was always so worried about it.
Yeah.
So now it's trying to have multiple income streams, but also multiple ways I can challenge myself and improve, so that if FIFA was going wrong, my business could be doing well, or if my business isn't doing well, I can use that as fuel to perform better in the gym. Like all these little things to keep my life balanced. I think balance is probably the key to life, Mr. Miyagi quote there, but it's just so true. I've recognized the power of balance, and that's another thing I took away from high level entrepreneurs and CEOs. They've got their balance nailed to a T. They respect their time. Their business models is always going to be, how can I deliver the most value in as little time? So they have more free time and they're still learning. Like it's just the key to a successful life, I think.
I think it's something that like, you don't necessarily understand at the early stages of anything, in terms of like getting 80% of your results from 20% of your time when it comes to Pareto's principle. I definitely didn't understand it myself. Like when people used to, Paula used to refer to it all the time, and I'd be like, everything's so important now. How the fuck? Like, how am I actually going to get 80% results from 20% of my time? And for her, it was pretty much just reinforcing like the money making tasks, which as time transitioned, I started to realize that those money making tasks for me were value driven tasks. How could I deliver more value to clients, potential clients? How could I work on areas of what I felt like I needed to work on, which was that basically understanding how to transfer that value in communication, explaining to someone how I could potentially help them, something I had no experience in whatsoever. And it's interesting because only as time goes on do you gain an understanding, and only as things go wrong you gain an understanding of what you know that you need to do moving forward.
That's probably the perfect way to sum it up. I only learned these lessons by actually going through them. And again, that's why my mission is to change people's lives through esports and show them that it's more than just what it stereotypically sounds as sitting on your bum playing video games. There's so much more to it.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to try and use it to my advantage in competing as well, because I know that not many FIFA players are going to be putting the work in that I'm away from FIFA. So getting the right rest, being in the gym, eating the right things, fueling myself right before tournaments, like having all the mental struggles of going really far in tournaments but not quite making it and all that.
Yeah.
I'll be ready for these high pressure situations, and it's just good. I always like to know that I'm doing more than most. It's quite a stuck up thing to say, but I don't mean it like that. It's more like I take great pride knowing that I'm pushing myself as hard as I could, and a lot of people might not be able to do what I'm doing. So I would rather use that to my advantage, or at least try and help other people reach that level, because I know it's really powerful.
Absolutely, mate. And I think that to relate to an element of my journey within gaming as well, the first event I went to, I51, I was 14, maybe just turned 15 or around about that kind of area, and walking into a room of grown men fucking shouting and screaming at each other and stuff. And in terms of anyone that doesn't know how like gaming events are set up, or at least back then, it was literally just 4 tables, 4 consoles, as opposed to another 4 tables and 4 consoles, and you're right in front of each other in terms of your team. And I played terribly at that first event, and then I say terribly compared to how I would play online. I didn't play anywhere near as good. I didn't eat the whole weekend. I was shaking before my first couple of games. I played. I'll never forget. There was one of the games where one of the strategies was that I played a corner where players would run by me, and I'd get a free kill. And the first engagement I had, I nearly choked that kill, and I'd never done that before, ever. I still got the kill, but I remember thinking, oh, that was... And the guy across from me was like shouting like, oh, that was close. And I was like, oh my God, he's like actually in my head. And being at 14, you don't know how to manage it. And for me, what I made sure that I never made that mistake again, in terms of believing I was underprepared.
Yeah, it's such valuable lessons, and now I like to be able to see through stuff like that. So if I can tell you're nervous in FIFA terms, it'd be like giving the ball away, turning the ball over far too much. Like I would try and use that to my advantage. And there's a good quote, a guy who's well known on TikTok, Sam Wardrobe, said it was from Brendan Rodgers. Like when you're on the football pitch, you always have to walk when your eye line's in line with the crossbar, because it's good body language and it'll put fear into the opposition and show that you're on it. So if I see you shaking across the table from me, I'm going to think he's nervous.
Yeah.
Let me try and put him in every uncomfortable situation I can to win.
Absolutely.
Because it's more than just like playing the game and believing in yourself to win. You need to exploit your opponent's weakness. So that was a big lesson from me. I don't think that's what you want to do in business, but it was definitely a valuable thing in getting successful in gaming.
Yeah. I think in a more, when you look at probably like within business, people will use it like the 48 laws of power in terms of that book.
Yeah.
For me, I've only read a small minority of it, but when I was reading it, it's nothing that I would ever do. But in terms of understanding what to look for in others, and to be aware of it and to trust, to develop an understanding of what people could potentially do. And reading that book, like everyone speaks about in terms of your gut instinct, in terms of any studies I've looked at and gaining more knowledge around it, your gut instinct is just your bullshit detector for what you've seen before that you're now seeing again, and you feel like it's repeating. And I think that falls true for myself. And the only way to do that is by obtaining the knowledge in books like that and obtaining those experiences, like you said.
Well, I've got the perfect way to give an example in my terms. So what I do now is coaching sessions in FIFA to help casual players improve. But at my previous job, I was also coaching really, really high level players, but they might not have had the experience at events and stuff that I did. So when I saw the player that I was managing shaking or not eating properly or like going through a tough time mentally, I knew what to give him, like what to tell him and the things he should do based on my own experience. So it could have been like, take some time away from the game because you're burned out, or you need to be eating better, eat this food because you'll have more fuel because the tournament lasts longer. Like I got all these lessons from myself.
Yeah.
And I know in esports how like it's not talked about enough yet. We're getting there. There's more courses on education and stuff like that coming out, but it's not there at all. So I think I'd be doing myself a disservice not trying to use these valuable things that I've learned to help myself move forward and try and give them to other people, because esports has a bad stereotype of like people developing anxiety, depression and stuff like that because all you're doing is sitting down playing a game. It can be done online. So just every lesson I've ever learned in my gaming career, I want to use all of it to help other people. That's like my core principle, because it'd be a waste if I didn't do that.
Yeah. And it's just kind of what you touched on before in terms of us only, like gaming just being us just sitting on our arses, like just playing. To begin with, it was that.
Yes.
And I think that's how, as time's evolved, it's no longer that. And these other lessons that you've now bringing into play, people can no longer neglect other areas of their life that is going to enhance them to be better, perform better. I used to play with even like Porky, who I used to play COD events with, or COD tournaments with within Warzone, man. Like, we'd be like competing in a tournament. Not in a tournament, but we'd even just be playing, man, and you'd just order a Domino's. And he'd just demolish a full Domino's, and he'd still play well after it. And I was like, bro, I don't know how the fuck you do that, mate, because all your I don't know the actual science in terms of like the terms behind it, but all your energy and all your brain power is going down to process. All your body's energy is going down to obviously digesting your food, so able to think as clearly. And that was always the case for me, man. Like I could never fully focus if I had a full belly, man, especially full of fucking pizza.
And then there's the flip side of it where people can't eat before tournaments. When I first started competing, I couldn't eat before tournaments, or it could be the same in business where you're nervous to pitch to someone or do a presentation and you're nervous and you don't eat. That's just going to make things worse for you. So it's recognizing sort of the trigger points of what you're worrying about and challenging it and knowing how to deal with it, which is really important for us in gaming. But that's so important as running your own business as well, because you're going to be put in these uncomfortable situations. It's the same when you get like hate comments. You're saying gaming used to just be sitting on your bum all day playing games. It's not that anymore. Yeah. So if I get a hate comment, like it could be, why is he so happy he represents Scotland playing games? Because I put my life into it. Yeah. And most people's going to put their life into their business. So if they hear their friends from school slagging it, they might take it to heart. Mm-hmm. These people aren't putting as much energy into something like this as you, so they're not going to know how you're feeling and what you've put into it and how on all this stuff. So why would you take hate comments from people who aren't trying to do what you're doing, or just are doing it because they're not doing well in life themselves? Like, it's important to just take a step back and put yourself in other people's shoes and be like, why are they doing this? Is it actually because my business is bad? What can I do to improve? Or are they just doing it out of spite because they're jealous or things aren't going well for them in their life? Yeah. And I know you've spoken about this so much on so many podcasts, but it's so true.
Absolutely, mate. What is a strength that you've leaned on that wasn't necessarily something that someone had told you? Like, only through experience was it something that you realised, shit, that works for me, man, and I'm going to continue to do it? Is there anything that springs to mind?
I would probably say being able to recognise that no matter how bad it is, it's going to get better and I will find a way out. So whether it was with when I had really bad anxiety, or when I felt really depressed, or when I was short on money, I always knew there was a way out. Or when I was doing really bad at competing, I could always see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's hard for people sometimes. So I would say it's a it's a unique strength, but it's only came through experience, like you said. And now I know when I'm in positions where I'm nervous or really uncertain about the future, I can still push forward because I've had experiences where I'm like, oh no, this is the worst time of my life. And then now I'm able to recognize that it's a bad time, but things are going to get better if I keep doing what I can to make it happen.
You always make it out of the shittest times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true, mate. In terms of obviously the areas of where you're experiencing those sort of times, how did you kind of push through it? Was there, did you just continue playing, or was it just like you just like anything that you done specifically?
Well, one of my biggest challenges throughout my gaming career was like I signed a 2 year contract with a agency who looked after me. They flew me around, did all my PR, provided my FIFA points, just did everything I needed basically. And then they made some false promises and told me I was going to play for a football club and all this, which didn't happen. And then I felt like my own agency, my own manager doesn't believe in me. Like, what's the point in all this? Like, I should just give up and all that. And then doing it all on my own, having none of these people behind me and still being able to push forward was such a big lesson. And then probably the biggest one was when I had a really bad anxiety to the point where every time I ate, I was being sick. And that was during tournaments as well. So when I actually won the tournament to represent Scotland, which is probably my proudest moment in gaming so far, I hadn't ate before. Even when I won, ordered a Domino's, ate 2 slices and was sick, even though it was the happiest time of my life. So I knew something was wrong there. And the way I challenged it was I got the opportunity to move to London to work full time in esports. And I knew London's not the sort of place where you can let your anxiety take over.
Yes.
I had to get on the busy tube every morning at peak times. There was no time for feeling sick and all that. I just had to do it, or I would have lost my job and wouldn't have been able to pay my rent and all that. So just challenging myself as much as I possibly could to get out of these bad situations is the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I know you want to also touch more on like the kind of London side of things, where you also spoke about some of the positives in terms of learning from Ollie and learning from someone that's obviously running a business and stuff like that. Is that something that you feel like is going to serve you very well in the future in terms of the things that you do?
100%. Learning from him and just the other colleagues in the business as well. They like some like to arrive early, some were not putting in the amount of work that they should, in my opinion. Like, or maybe even I wasn't, and it was seeing the standards of other people in the company and allowing me to push forward. It was just being in this environment, being away from home, like living on my own in London in one of the busiest places. And someone attempted to mug me as well on my way home from work one day, and that actually creeped my anxiety back in because I used to leave the office at like 11 p.m. and every time I came home I was feeling sick, worried about, oh, is this guy going to be here again and try this again? So I just think London's, like, in my opinion, based on solely my experience, it was a lovely place to visit but a really bad place to live. So putting myself in that environment for 7 months where I really, really didn't enjoy living there, but I knew like the experiences I got, the people I got to meet, like the people that were coming into the office, the events I went to, everything was so invaluable. So it was a brilliant time of life and probably the main catalyst of why I started business, but I don't think I would ever want to live there again.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to go through to then gain all the lessons to then put you back in a position where obviously it serves you better now.
Also, it's the thing, like, I didn't appreciate what I had at home. Like, I used to think, oh, I live in a like rubbish place. Like, there's one pub to go to and you're always going to the same place on a night out, or there's the same places to eat, or you're always seeing the same people. In London, you see different people every day, and not everybody, but the stereotypical thing in London is you be miserable, and if you see somebody, you don't say anything to them. I remember when a woman was struggling to get her suitcase up a set of stairs, and I just picked it up and tried to help her lift it, and she thought I was trying to steal it. So that just sums up how, like, that's like a stereotype going around London. And when I went home to visit, I loved how quiet it was, and I loved how I could walk past people on the street and say hello, like, how was your day? And you'd have old people walking their dogs and they'd be so friendly. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't realize this stuff I had, and being with my family, how much of a blessing that was, and like being with my parents, because when you're so far away from them, one of my funniest London stories would be when my whole family was having a big party, like maybe my whole family, I mean that, and they were like singing, dancing, and all that. I was on FaceTime to them, and as that was happening, I could hear folk fighting outside and bottles smashing and stuff. And I was like, I should be with them. What am I doing? Sat here. There's so many times where I was like, why am I sat in London doing this? Like, what am I doing? I should just go home. But I stuck through it, and the lessons I got from sticking through it was just invaluable.
What is the biggest lesson that you got from it?
Probably I mean, there's loads, but I'd say the biggest one was like know what you're worth and go after it. So
Yeah.
I'd never done a 9 to 5 job, but I'd always just put all my eggs in the game. And like I said, but doing one, even though it was in something I loved, I recognised that it wasn't for me. But I would never have recognised that by not giving it a chance. So I know there would be maybe a lot of people listening to this thinking about maybe trying to get out of a 9 to 5 job or looking for something new, maybe wanting to start their own business. Like, go for it. It doesn't mean you need to quit your 9 to 5 job, but you can still make progress to go for it. And if you don't go for it, you would never know. Like, and another thing is I see folk doing like 1 year plans or 10 year plans. One of the biggest lessons in life I've learned is that you never know what's going to come, and just take everything as a blessing. So I couldn't tell you what I'm going to be doing a year from now. I've got a plan, but it might not stick to that. I could never have said a year ago today I'd be now starting my own business, or I would never ever in a million years have said I'm suddenly going to move to London during a global pandemic when I can't eat without being sick. I would never have thought I was going to do that, but it happened.
Yeah.
And I don't like London. Like, I've always said I would never want to live there, but I just went, you know what, I'm going to do this. So you never know what's coming your way in life, but all the lessons that you get leading up to it is how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah. And I think in times like what I was taking away from what you were saying was a lot of the areas within your life you had a lot of uncertainty. And one of the main things that gave you certainty was being at home with your family. And it's interesting because when I done the Tony Robbins event, it speaks about how two of our human needs is certainty but also uncertainty. And finding that kind of interesting paradox where you're wanting both, but both of them are very different. Find the balance between that. And I think business at those early stages, it's very much
so much uncertainty. Even if you're going to your own family who provided that certainty in the past, if you're telling them about a business idea, naturally there's going to be doubt because they always want what's best for you, which is going to be your security. So if you're saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Even when I started my game, and I was lucky they were so supportive, but stereotypically most parents would be like, I don't know if that's a good idea, you should probably just stick in at school or go to university and stuff. So someone that's always provided you certainty is going to challenge you.
Yeah.
So it's how you recognise that.
Something you spoke about before in that, in terms of how supportive your dad was.
My parents just totally supported the game, and like throughout the whole way, my mum's always on social media telling the whole town about how I'm doing, and then my dad just like totally supported me through it all, even when things weren't going well. I think that's because he got a free trip to Sweden, to be fair, because I was too young to go myself. That probably gave him that certainty that I could do this. But yeah, their support was massive for me, and I would actually honestly say, it's came off the top of my head, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in life is like, you don't realize what you have until you don't have it. So going back to London when I was so far away from my family, like my family now were so used to me not turning up to family events because I thought I had to be practicing and all that, so I would never turn up to family events. Now understanding the importance of being there and as an off switch and stuff, but they still sometimes don't invite me because they just assume I'm not going to turn up. So it's just, and then when I was in London, all I wanted was to be with my friends and my family, and I didn't have it. And now I have nights when I'm sitting here wishing I was back in London. I used to love going to the pub and socialise, and I was playing darts and stuff, and I was really improving at darts. And there's some nights where I'm like, I wish I still had that, or I wish I still had some of the stuff in London. In London, you get to see every single culture. You learn so much about so many people. It was just amazing. So there's so many plus sides to London, but I didn't see them till I left. Just like there were so many plus sides to where I was living and where I'm living again now, but I didn't see that till I left it.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think it's something that when you look at the kind of support that you've touched on with your family, I had a similar experience in terms of also my mum being incredibly supportive to begin with, having a little mini curfew, turn the internet off at 10, all that kind of stuff. But
I did get that, to be fair.
Yeah. But it also puts you in a position where, funnily enough, obviously for you with your dad, it was going to Sweden. For me, it was getting that first check through the door that said,
I've heard you speak about this before.
Yeah, $200. Mum was like, well, this is your part-time job now, like this is how you're earning your money, so just do your thing. And I think that's something that I can really resonate with, mate. I don't think many people are fortunate enough as us to have where man, my mum, my gran, everyone that was kind of around me, man, like all loved everything that I'm doing. My gran is by far my biggest kind of what your mum does, constantly raving, constantly gassing us up in some way, shape or form. Every post that my mum puts up in terms of like her business, every post my cousin Daniel puts up in terms of his tattoos, she's the first one on to share. And it's so funny, when I first came back onto Facebook, I put up one of my first posts around business. straight away texting me, "Hi John, can't share your post. Something to do with settings." And I was like, "Ah, gran. How do you know that you could fucking share posts on Facebook?" Like, I was the granddad in that moment. I had no idea what I was doing. So I think it's something we touched on before with what would be your advice. I know it's not necessarily from your position because you've always had a supportive environment, but someone in a position where they're wanting to pursue gaming, what do you feel like they need to do to showcase the value of it at this current stage?
Well, my answer before you said that was going to be find a way to show value. So it's like giving it a go and respecting the boundaries your parents set upon you. If you can provide a logical reason why you should be able to play more, they should respect that. But if they're telling you to go off at 10 p.m. and you're turning it back on, and like remember the olden days when you had your DS and when your parents came in, you would put it under your pillow and try and keep playing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way I got about to go about it. I think it's trying to showcase the value that you can within their boundaries. So whether that's they put you to bed or you only get an hour a day to play or whatever. And then nowadays there's like courses and things you could do at school and clubs you can go to. So there'll be a lot of ways where you can actually show your parents, or if you get the stats on esports, some of the stats are just unbelievable. It's the fastest growing industry in the world, and there's a lot of stats behind it now. And documentaries, you could sit them down, let them watch a documentary about esports. Like there's so many things you can do, but sometimes it'll be the case where no matter what you do, they're not going to be supportive of it. Like some people, family, maybe they're all nurses or whatever, and they want you to grow up and be a nurse. Like you can't change that. So at some point in your life, it might be when you reach a certain age, you might have to be like, oh, I'm just going to have to go against their support. The chances are, if you go against what your family's telling you to do and you made loads of money, they'd be fine with it. Yeah. So if you can see the true potential of it, go for it, but don't cloud yourself on chasing that dream. You need to think logically and see that there's a path there. If you want to do it, but you don't see a path there, it's not worth the risk of trying it. But if you see a way you can do it, do it. But there should be a way that you can do it while still respecting the boundaries of your parents, still going to university. That's my biggest advice by far for anyone who wants to get into esports or business. I would say when you're first starting it, have something else, whether it's a university degree or you're still going to university whilst gaming. Because as I said, I learned that you don't need to play all the time. That time doing university could actually be your off switch or whatever. So have a backup plan. It's the same that they say when someone wants to be a professional sports person or whatever, or be a musician, that you always have to have a backup plan. So if you've got that and you're respecting what your parents are saying, you can still push forward, whether your parents support you or not. But having their support is the biggest blessing in the world. So I would try and get it. But if you can't, you just have to accept it. It's one of these things.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Because for me, I had obviously that immense support, but thinking back to like how I would have navigated around it if my mum didn't support it, it would definitely have been of a matter of showcasing obviously the value in some way, shape, or form in terms of like, yes, this is something new, but this is also something that is going to evolve into something so much better. I love it, and I believe I could make money through doing so. And yeah, find that balance so that when you're, so like for me, I went to college and I went to uni, didn't like uni, then left, and my mum was so supportive about that as well. And with uni, having something that is obviously more traditional to necessarily keep obviously the family happy. That wasn't the case for me. That was more of like I believe that's what I had to do in terms of like it was the highest form of education on paper. So like I had to do and realise it wasn't the case at all. But that's definitely how I'd probably go about it in terms of using uni not necessarily as in their eyes something that is providing security, but for you when you're in those moments where you're playing FIFA or when you're playing COD or whatever game it is that you're playing, you're able to really hone in on the fact that this time is perishable. You know, it's not going to be like this all the time. So you have to work hard on that shorter space of time. And just like you said, taking time to study gameplays, taking time to actually really fucking maximize the time that you're playing.
One thing that you've touched upon so much, because it's what your businesses came from essentially, was the lessons you've learned through gaming can be applied to business. Yeah. So if you can show your parents that you've learned these new things and these new lessons, it could be anything, like how to communicate. If you're like really great at public speaking now because you've been speaking to random people on the internet, I don't know what it could be, but I just know there's so many things you can learn through gaming that's applicable to other things. So that would be a way to go, and I know that's certainly what you're trying to portray to people now. But I think it's important to talk about the flip side as well. So there might be people who has the support of their parents but actually neglect it. So I think I actually did this. My dad used to want to watch every game I ever played. He wanted to sit behind me and watch, and I would never let him do it because I was scared it would put me off. Now recently my dad's been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a critical illness where his brain doesn't work, which results in, at the moment, one of his legs and arms not working properly. We don't know how it's progressing and stuff like that, but it's like I'd give in now to let my dad watch all of these moments, because now I don't know how much he's actually going to get to watch in the future. So
Yeah.
I would have loved to have, if my dad asked me how my FIFA's going, I'd say, like, shut up, like, that's so bad. But that's actually honestly what I did. I used to say, I don't want to talk about it, just let me do my thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a bit of scarcity mindset. Maybe I wasn't doing well and I didn't want to talk to him about it in case he told me to go get a job or whatever. So if you've got that support of your parents, you need to like really respect it and share what you're doing with them, because they're going to support you even more. Don't lie, but if you're doing really well, tell them. If you're struggling, tell them, because they can support you. I would love now for my dad to have watched all the games and watched my journey. And when I did win that one for the Scotland thing, I just went into my dad's room and burst out crying, because it was like all the emotions bottled up. I think if you're not being transparent with your parents when they're supporting you, it'll come out eventually. So I think that's important to talk about as well.
Absolutely, mate. I also appreciate you bringing on the podcast, mate, and obviously the stuff that's going on with your dad. Hopefully, like, also things progress and they do get better on that side of things, mate. I was going to kind of touch on briefly, which you kind of touched on there, but the question I wanted to ask you is something that I've kind of been digging a bit more deeper in terms of why I understand it more. There's no studies on it. There's nothing being spoke about on it, which is that, do you think that like our obsession with gaming has came from some sort of trauma response growing up? Or was that the case for you?
I wouldn't say it's the case for me, but I know for a fact it's a case for so many people. It's their escape. People are against gaming. They're like, oh, why are you trying to level up in a game when you can try and level up in life as a whole? But they don't realize that this was their escape from reality, and people love gaming for that reason. For me, it totally wasn't the case. It was just something I loved doing and I wanted to do as much as possible. But for people, they could have so much things going on in their life that aren't going right for them, and when they put that game on, that's their like flow state. That's where they feel comfortable and they can escape from their problem. It's like for me, actually, it wasn't gaming that did this for me, it was football. So when I went on the football pitch, I forgot about all my problems and I was more worried about if I'm going to play rubbish and all that. And people get that through gaming. That's their escape, whether it's playing a story mode game where they can just chill out or talk to their friends. That is their escape. You have to respect that. So the more that these studies that come out, I think it's going to be 100% spot on. But it wasn't the case for me. But I think that if I had to guess the figure of people that that's the case for, it would be so high.
Yeah, I think it definitely was. Funnily enough, you say football. When I initially became obsessed with gaming, it was on just before Black Ops 2. Like, I loved playing, I loved like gaming and stuff like that. I got my first console when I was 10. I used to sit and watch my cousin from the age of 6. I used to go and stay at my grand's and watch them every weekend. In the hopes I would get a shot of his controller and he'd go to the toilet or something, I'd be able to play a game or something. But in terms of the obsession of becoming the best, definitely came when I tore the ligament in my knee. And it when in hindsight, I was definitely an element of a trauma response, because I no longer had the thing that I could like physically touch in terms of going and playing football to activate that flow state. And I think that's where gaming replaced that.
Well, now that you say that, it's kind of unlocked a new thought in my mind that I kind of do have that with gaming. Like, I actually have a fear. This is really a bit random, but if a random dog comes up to you in the street, most people would like stick their hand out and try and let the dog sniff them to get their trust or whatever. If I do that, I'm scared the dog's going to bite my fingers off, because I know how valuable they are to me. Because gaming, if I lost my fingers or whatever, I'd be trauma would be so massive for me, because I've built everything in my life's been built from my success in gaming. So if I'm not able to do that anymore, I don't know what I would do. So now that you've said it, it's made me understand more why gaming is an escape for people, because I couldn't imagine not having it. As much as it's brought me tough times, it's brought me some of the best times of my life, and I don't want to lose that. So
how are you finding the balance at the moment with gaming and business? Those who've been speaking a lot about balance.
I was finding it okay, because it was the quiet end of FIFA 22. If you don't know how FIFA works, the game comes out at the end of September. As we're recording this podcast, it's 25th of September or something like that. So we're a few days away from the full release of FIFA, basically. And towards the back end of FIFA, so in maybe May to the September time when the new one's coming out, it's kind of chilled out. So I found the balance perfectly fine when I was starting my business. But now I'm actually struggling, because I'm naturally wanting to just play FIFA all the time, because that's all I've ever knew. So it's kind of having boundaries in place and respecting that I need to keep putting the same energy in my business, if not more, to keep getting the highest results. But I had kind of a brief, I don't know what I would call it, like an experience of this. So when I was working my 9 to 5 in esports, I wasn't able to compete
Mm.
because I didn't have time. So I now understand how important it is to balance things because I want to do that. And it makes you want it more. I used to take FIFA for granted and I used to lie in bed all day and not practice. But see, when you can't practice, I had no internet in my home in London, by the way,
Mm.
that I was paying. I'm just going to be honest, I was paying £1,200 a month for my rent in London that had no internet, no living room. It was rubbish, but that sums up what London's like. And having to go to the office to practice
Mm.
was tough for me because I'd rather just had it in my room. That's all I ever knew. And then having too much work to practice my gaming was annoying because all I wanted to do was compete, whereas before I would have took it for granted. So it's now knowing I'm trying to do both things, if not more. I'm also doing consultancy work, guest lecturing, playing football, like spending time with my family. There's a lot I'm doing, so it's just taught me the how you need to be strict and you need to schedule things and need to put time into both because if I put too much energy into one, the other one's gonna fall, and then I'm gonna have to put all my energy into
Mm.
that to get it back up. So I'm struggling with it, to be honest, but I know it's just a lesson I'm gonna have to learn, and when I learn it, I'll just be able to move forward.
I think it'll definitely get you to a stage at the moment where, just like we touched on to begin with Pareto's principle, you're going to feel like everything is top priority. Everything needs to be done. Whereas, over the next couple of years, you'll start to develop more of an understanding of what is going to generate 80% of your results from that minimal time, and then you'll be able to, like, obviously have time to yourself without thinking about the things that you should be doing. Because I know that that's how your mind will be operating at the moment, where
Yeah.
every time you're doing one thing, you're thinking you should be doing another, and it's real, mate,
I
for
think
sure.
it's just because of the past 6 years or whatever it's been, I've always played competitive FIFA, and at the start, it's so important to get a head start and know the game inside out.
Yeah.
So for me not to be playing all the time, it feels wrong.
Mm.
In reality, I now know it's not wrong. It's like I already know I don't need to play all the time to improve. So what I need to do is recognize like when I'm thinking like this because I know the solutions. It's doing it that's the hard part because I've had the experiences to know what I need to be doing. It's just I need to have sort of a trigger where I go, "What are you doing? Why have you spent the time doing this? Go do what you're supposed to do."
Mhm.
And I think that's the power of discipline.
Yeah.
Always trying to improve my discipline, but if you're disciplined, you're never going to have these problems because people would wake up and they don't want to go to the gym, but they go because they know they need to. So
Yeah.
I want to work on my business because I know I need to. I want to put an extra hour a week into FIFA because I know I'm not playing well right now. I need to be able to recognize these things and then put it into action.
Yeah. If someone was starting a business and you wanted to give them a head start, what would be your piece of advice that you would give them?
Work on yourself before your business and
Mm.
actively improve yourself whilst you're improving your business. So there is like self development, there's so many forms of it and how it can help you, whether it's reading books to obtain knowledge, cold water therapy to train your mind to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, like working out in the gym. There's no downside to looking good and having a good body. If anything, that gives you more authority and stuff. So always work on yourself because it's only going to aid your business and it'll also help you deal with the business struggles that come along. It's self development is the biggest thing to do in the world, in my opinion. If you're always self developing, it's only going to help you with business. So put everything into your business, but make the time for self development. Try a gratitude journal, read books, try cold water therapy, try new things that you think is going to help you. Try that new morning routine, work on your body, try that new hobby. Like do all the things you want,
Mhm.
develop yourself because if you're not like developed yourself, you're not going to be able to run a business. You need to know how to deal with the hardships and the challenges of self development. So
Mhm.
work on yourself first. And I worked on myself a lot, but that was because I wanted to do well in gaming. I know you would have did it as well. You would have researched like
Yeah.
most successful sports people and tried to be like them. I'm sure a lot of people in life's looked up Conor McGregor and motivation and been like, how do I talk like him and be so overconfident and all that? But work on these things first, then work onto your business, or worst case scenario, make sure you're doing both. There's always development you can do. I don't care how much money you have in the bank, there'll be so much self development you can still do. And I think that's so important. That'd be my main advice for sure.
Yeah, because we're always wanting individuals want a short term, um, route to success. When in reality, you need to put the reps in. You need to get the reps under the bar, mate, in order to gain the experience, which then results in the conviction, which then enables you to be in a position where you're incredibly confident about what you do. On the topic of obviously transitioning from gaming into business and obviously juggling both of them at the moment, um, if someone was to try and piece together the puzzle, because we've pieced it together in terms of like gaming and business, taking lessons from gaming and applying them to business. What are some of the lessons that you've took from gaming and applied to business that spring to mind?
Consistency,
Consistency.
like how important that is. So, like how important it was for me to consistently practice, that can translate to how important it is to consistently post on LinkedIn or consistently check in with clients or consistently like check and make sure your business is like you're going in the right direction, or you've got the right systems, or you've got the right clients, or you've got the right staff. Like consistency was a massive one, and like valuing your time. I learned through the struggles of gaming and playing all the time how important it is to take a step away.
Mm.
And I also think you need to, as you said, I'm still working on it now, but getting the non-negotiables done. So
Yeah.
that's another lesson. There's so many. Like honestly, everything I've learned this came through gaming, and now it's like this transition period where I'm learning. Even I can learn stuff now from business that I can apply to gaming.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably would think the same. If you were going to compete, you'd be going back as a whole different person.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, consistency is probably the biggest one, and then there's like in gaming, what I always had to do was play against people better than me to get better results. So I would say surround yourself with individuals who are doing better than you and can help you. There was such a good video of Mr. Beast talking, and he was saying how he was a YouTuber and he was trying to grow his YouTube channel. If you've got three friends and you're all actively having meetings together and telling each other your struggles, you're going to progress three times faster because you're all going to share your mistakes. So you're not going to make the same mistakes as the other two people.
Yeah.
Whereas if you did it yourself, you'd make the same mistakes and not have the solution. So the power of your network is probably the biggest thing that I've learned that's applicable to business as well. So I joined your network because I wanted to be around people who would aspire me to get the best out of myself, and I could help them as well.
Yeah.
And it was the same in FIFA. I always had to play against the best players. That was always what you're trying to do. Be like the people better than you. So having these people to look up to and the right people around you, that's probably the most valuable thing. Just
Absolutely.
cut the crap. Like don't sit at the table with people you don't think's providing you value, or like don't do things that you don't think. If you don't want to be somewhere, don't do it. Like respect your time and surround yourself with the right stuff, basically.
Absolutely, man. Naval raves about it constantly, and in terms of like one of his principles is never spend his time doing something he doesn't want to do. In terms of not necessarily not doing something you don't want to do because it makes you uncomfortable, not doing something because you know it has no value and it's definitely not making you uncomfortable, so you know you're not going to get any value in return from it. He openly speaks about that. Something that I'm consistently working on. Where even recently I went to an event, felt like I wasn't getting value from it. Kind of was thinking about leaving, and Naval's principle came into mind, and I was like, yeah, I probably should. And I was like, nah, I'll ride it out for a bit. Stayed for another hour, still didn't get anything from it, and I was just like, what am I doing, man?
Another thing that came to me there when I was thinking was that, like, in gaming, you'll have learned, especially, I've heard you speak about it so many times, how when you made a mistake, you put hundreds of hours into one particular thing, making sure that didn't happen again. So one thing I've learned is like a lot of your success in gaming comes from stuff you do behind the scenes. So you can portray yourself as the best person in the world and your business is the best thing in the world on social media. But if you don't maintain these standards day to day, then you're not going to be successful. Like imagine marketing everything like you're the most amazing person in the world and you're just a total dick to folk.
Yeah.
That's not going to get you anywhere. So don't be fake, because folk will see right through it. And it's the same with gaming. If you don't put the hours in to improve, you'll get found out. It's the same with business. If you don't put the hours in to improve, you'll get found out. If you don't treat people the right way or provide the service you're trying to say you're going to provide, you're going to get found out. You can spend all the money in the world on making a website look good, lead generation advertisements, or say you can do all these things, but if you can't actually provide it, you're going to get found out. So that's the things you do when nobody's watching can help so much. Helping others, showing gratitude,
Yeah.
empathy, like all these things can only improve you. So never feel bad for doing it, and you don't have to like see people when they're like giving money to homeless folk and they feel they need to record it and all that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with recording it. It's good for people to see that you're doing that, but it's also amazing to do it without anyone knowing.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it could be the easiest way to do this, right? You all go to McDonald's. I know it for a fact. We all go to McDonald's. Even if you're like the fittest person in the world, there'll be times where you go for a coffee or whatever. When you're on that little machine that asks you if you want to donate some money to the McDonald's charity, just press the button. Like, do these things. Nobody's going to know you've done it, but you've done it, and it's a good thing to do.
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree, mate. It's definitely something like, as you were talking, trying to pursue. I recently watched a podcast with Steve Bartlett done with Bella Treasure, who's an incredible speaker, and he speaks about the importance of active listening. And it's something I've been deploying as much as I can within the podcast. But one of the things I think came up for me was thinking about how we could spitball ways to piece business and gaming together in terms of creating these kind of analogies where things are similar. So a couple that come to my mind was when I started to approach business, I started to try and approach it from my competitive mindset within Call of Duty. So I was like, if I was on a team, we'd have 3 different game modes we had to work on: hardpoint, S&D, capture the flag, or whatever it may be. And when I was first in business, I started to kind of break things up that way. What is the 3 areas that I am working on at the moment?
Yeah.
Who is part of my team? What is their responsibilities within my team?
Yeah.
And I started to break up those into, now they were ever changing, just like they were ever changing each year with different games, different principles, different teams. Definitely within business, I'm always looking at three main areas. And when I look at we were planning for Q4, also it's just about going to the last quarter of the year, the year end. And when we were laying out the whiteboard, myself and Andy, we were looking at 3 areas that we wanted to focus on most, which very simple: value, in terms of the value that they're offering to clients, yourself, potential clients. Secondly, client acquisition, where our word of mouth referrals and what we're generating at the moment is about 45% of our clients are coming from there. Wanted ways to maximize that. We also wanted to try out new channels like TikTok leads, which we've just generated our first client through there. So obviously that's showcasing that it's working somewhere. Ollie's want to come in and do email marketing with us. We've been trialing that for a couple of months in terms of like not running any campaigns, but actively developing it. And then lastly, one of the things that we've always wanted within the business is a safety net. Now, we've always had a safety net in terms of like a certain amount of money in the bank, but we had a specific goal that we want to achieve by the end of this year that will give us a safety net for us to do a lot of things that we want to do to go into next year. So it's always just basically just forward planning, and laying out the different areas of that we believe are necessary, which is kind of simple things in terms of like consistently managing our projections, consistently meeting our expectations, consistently putting away 30% extra of like, consistently putting away 30% extra for our potential expenses that could crop up. I know I kind of went a bit of a tangent there, but
I remember the question, what my 3 principles would be.
Yeah.
And as soon as you said it, they popped straight into mind. So the first one was the main lesson I got, which was probably one of my closest friends, and within esports, was Mark Marley. He's also a FIFA player, and he told me you always have to play with a purpose.
Yeah.
So when you do play, you write your goals down, exactly what you want to do in the week, and you go for it. And that's exactly what I do with business now. I think, what's my purpose for the week? Every Sunday night, I plan out exactly what I want to do, and also the night before, every day, I write down what I want to achieve that day. Yep. So purpose, and constantly reminding yourself what the purpose is, because of course, to start a business, you're going to have a core purpose, but constantly reminding yourself and breaking it down into little things, that's one. Second one is my circle. Who am I surrounding myself with? In gaming, I always had to be playing against the best players, so I improved from a totally average player to one of the best, and that was from every time I got better, I'd play someone better and just keep scaling and keep scaling and keep scaling. So in business, I'm really active about who am I surrounding myself with, and it's the same for like with gaming. It was like, I don't want to be around these people because maybe their attitude's wrong, they're like just, they're not going to improve because they're just shouting at the game or whatever. Like, it's the same with business. I need to be around people who's going to help me improve, like that are doing the right things, have the right values, share my values. Like, your circle's really important in gaming, it's really important in life, it's really important in business. So purpose, circle, and then what was the last one again? Purpose, circle, I need to remember because it was a good one.
I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Purpose, circle. Oh yeah, so in gaming it would have been identifying a weakness.
Yeah.
So how am I going to beat this person? He's not good at switching player, or I always beat him by going down the wing. Like, identifying that and using it to my advantage. And now the flip side of business is using the struggles that I've been through. I touched on it earlier, but it's using the learnings and struggles in my journey to recognize when a client or when a player or someone I know is struggling, recognizing that and using what I've learned, being in the same positions to help them. So it used to be about finding a weakness to exploit my opponent and win, which it's still going to be when I'm gaming. But in business, it's all about recognizing what's wrong and solving it, helping people. And that's
Absolutely.
actually really good to have that kind of flipped, because I used to think about how to beat people and how to like take advantage of their weaknesses to win. That's what you're going to do in any sport, obviously, but in business, you never want to be doing that. That's totally the wrong way to do it. So the fact that I'd be able to recognize when things are going wrong for people and help them fix it, that's going to show value. That's how I'm going to make money, and it's also going to be that's how I'm going to be able to help people.
Yeah,
People
absolutely.
pay to get their problems solved.
Absolutely, man. It's all businesses. Taking away a problem, providing value. You touched on some really good outlooks. It's good to actually hear this and spitball some of them, because I always try and I speak about them with like Ollie, for example. Obviously, me and him came from the same background within COD, and there's so many times it just comes to fruition where, um, when we were initially starting the email marketing campaign, we were all obviously like me and Ollie were fucking up different areas of it. Wasn't really going to plan. We were just kind of trialing it here and there, and he was like, "Mate, what are we even stressing about, man? This is us playing game battles. The next stage up, we'll start playing wagers. Then the next stage up from wagers, we'll then start going to events and we'll start placing top 120 and playing shit. And then the next stage will be obviously getting to like stage where we're placing
Yeah.
top 12 and stuff like that.
That's such a good thing you touched on. I know I've butted in, but
No, I
it's
need to go,
just
bro.
it's ignited in my brain. Like, one thing I learned through gaming is no matter what my goal is, when I hit it, I'm not going to be satisfied.
Mm.
I always want to push for a new one. All I wanted in life was to win that Scotland spot, and when I won it, I was like, "Oh, this is so stressful. Like, do I even want to be doing this?" But that was because my natural instinct is to always go one up. So I wanted to win the tournament for Scotland,
Yeah.
and I was struggling with that. So always my goals when I hit them always brings more struggle essentially. But that's what fuels you to keep going. But I know that's what it's going to be like in business now. So when I hit my goals, like, say I've heard so many successful entrepreneurs speak about it as well. Like, say you make £1 million, like your goal is to make £1 million, and when you make that, you're not even happy because you're striving for more, or
Mm.
it's not as good as you thought it was going to be. So having the ability to recognize that and use your goals to spur you on, but no, it's not the be all or end all, and more hardships going to come or more amazing things are going to come, is really powerful to look at as well.
What dividends do you think have paid forward from some of the struggles? I was trying to think of maybe one specifically, but maybe one will come to your mind for yourself, mate, in terms of a specific incident that springs to mind, maybe around your anxiety. What have you took from that that has then helped you move forward in life?
Well, the main thing with anxiety was I had no idea how to stop it,
Okay.
and then I realized what I have to do is challenge, like, recognize the trigger points of that anxiety and challenge it. So if I'm scared of, I don't know, if I'm scared of eating a pizza and being sick, that's what I'm going to have to do. Or I used to be scared of fainting. It all happened because when I went to school one time, I fainted. So every time I went into that classroom, I was scared of fainting. So now it was more, I need to recognize I'm scared, I'm going to faint, have that trigger point to be like, because it never happened again, but I was always worried about it.
Mm.
So the fact that I can now recognize and just go, it's not going to happen. That's how I dealt with that.
Mm.
And I think I can apply that to anything. So if I'm struggling with something, I'll be able to recognize, or like, we worry about so much stuff that we don't need to worry about. So it's
Yeah.
being able to just be like, because I still get really bad anxiety now, even though I've totally overcame the worst of it, it still creeps back in. So it's being able to use your experiences. It's not fair to pick out one as a whole. Like my anxiety, what I've learned in gaming, business. Like there's so many experiences, but the main lesson would be to combine them all. And when you're struggling with something, there'll be something in the past that you've dealt with that you can use to help you deal with this situation as well. So I don't know, if my business was struggling for money, I'd look back at times when I was struggling for money. And
Yeah.
a good way to look at it is, if think about all the problems you've got right now, chances are in a year none of them will be problems anymore. It could be even a month, none of them will be problems anymore. So don't waste your energy worrying about it. I'm probably a really big overthinker, still something I'm trying to work on, but you just realize that you're just totally wasting your energy, and a lot of it's coming from that worry. If you spent the time you were worrying working on improving it, you'd probably fix it.
Yeah. There's a video that just spoke on just exactly what you touched on there. What it was about, if everyone put their problems into a pile, you would take yours back.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like the the problems that I had a year ago, I'd wish to have them right now, opposed to the problems I have right now, or
Mm.
vice versa. Like when I went to London, I always touch on this because it was a big life changer for me. I just wished I was back at home playing games all day, which I took for granted and hated my life.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do because it was what I was used to. So when I challenged that and went to somewhere new, I realized they weren't problems at all, and I wish I could go back. But you never realize that until you challenge it. So I don't know. It sounds weird, but it's like appreciating your problems and your
Yeah.
struggles because you know that there's going to be a big outcome at the end of it. So say like I don't know, a good example would be getting a tattoo. Like everybody hates the pain it, but they get through it and at the end they love it, or transforming your body. Nobody likes doing it, but if you show up every day and get those results, you'll be so proud of it. And at the end that builds discipline. And when you're building all these things, it's going to help you deal with things in the future.
Yeah.
Best example I have apart from anxiety would be how I didn't used to let my dad watch me play, and
Yeah.
then when he got his diagnosis and stuff, I burst into tears and I thought the worst. I was like, is my dad going to see me at my own wedding? Like, is my dad going to be in a wheelchair next year? Is my dad going to be able to see me have kids? Like, I thought about all the worst, and then I was like, why would I worry about these things? Let me move forward, and if my dad gets to see these things, it's a blessing. So
Yeah.
if my dad gets to see me be married, I'll be really happy about that. But I can't control it. So
Mm.
what I can control is I know his condition's probably going to be worsening. I don't know what pace it's worsening at. Let me go win a FIFA tournament next month and let him share the moment with me. Always work now because I don't know like how long I've got left for my dad. It could be the majority of my life, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know right now. So it could be 5 years for all I know. Or he could die in a car crash today.
Yeah.
So my thought process is just use that as motivation because my dad's had his life stripped away from him. He can't work anymore. He can't go on a night out. He can't do any of these things without support. He needs constant help, a leg brace, a walking stick, and all that. So he spent his whole life like providing for me. His whole motivation was providing for me. What a blessing! Now I need to use it to push forward and make him proud.
Yep. Absolutely, mate. And he'll also listen to this podcast just now. Probably
He will.
fucking.
He listens to everyone, watches everyone.
It's amazing support, bro. And it's something that he'll be incredibly grateful for in terms of being able to watch his son fucking do everything that you've done.
That's what I mean. Because I used to never appreciate my big moments as well,
Mm.
but it's the same when you lose someone in your life. You're like, you look at all the good times you had. It was the same. It was not obviously I've not lost my dad, but it was like he's actually got to see me do a lot of things. He saw me go to 8 different countries to compete. He's came some of the times with me. He saw me beat the FIFA World Champion. He saw me play at Ibrox, my childhood dream to play on that football pitch. He saw me represent my country. He saw me get a Commonwealth silver medal as a coach. Like he saw all these amazing things. So I should be proud of that now.
Absolutely.
Any more I get as a bonus. Like if I was to lose someone close to me tomorrow, I'd be happy at the stuff I've got to show them. But imagine if I was able to make loads of money now and spoil my dad, that'd be good as well. So
Yeah.
it's always something more to push for, really. And that's why there's no point crying about what's happened to my dad because I can't control it.
Yeah.
I need to use it to fuel me to be more successful, which I didn't used to do in the past. With all my problems, I used to be like, it's the worst thing that could happen. I'd let them eat me up inside. But now it's like, this has happened, move forward.
Yeah. And touched on some of the stuff with your dad and maybe like your upbringing and stuff like that. Obviously, you spoke about how we briefly spoke about as well the fact that like, your dad always worked to provide like for you and your brothers and stuff like that. Do you think that's something that's fell into your life almost, but in a way that's benefited you?
Yeah,
Or-
100%. So now my dad, to go back a bit further, a year ago today, my auntie died of the same disease. And it's not a disease that runs in family. It's totally by chance that my dad's got it as well. But she passed away a year ago and she was living with my dad's mum, my gran. And all the house was set up for her to live with that condition. So like a toilet in the room that my dad's now moved into my gran's basically. So he's got all the setup there to get the best possible life now that he can. And I'm now living in his house alone. And I want to get to the point where I can continue his mortgage and all this stuff. So, and I live with my brother now. I've now got a duty to work together with my brother on the house, and I want to do the house up in case my dad wants to sell it, or I want it to be a better environment for my brother. Whereas before it was like, I didn't even used to do my own washing. I just throw it on the floor and let my family deal with all that. I was such a spoiled kid. And now it's like, I don't enjoy doing washing, and I know it's like such a boring thing. I could spend my time doing loads of other things, but it's like, just as an adult, you need to do these things. So it's like, gave me that big sense of responsibility just to do the basics, like mowing washings, like the dishes, like clean the whole house up, hoovering, stuff I would never do before.
Mhm.
And then not only that, but it's the other thing, like having a bit of weight on my shoulders, like providing for my brother. Like, I want to be able to give my dad good things, my mum good things, like my family, my friends. So it's like, I don't think it's given me more responsibility. It has, but it's more being able to recognize the responsibility I do have. And even if I don't have it, put it on myself anyway, because I've realized how good a feeling it is to just give to other people. So
Yeah.
I want that feeling more. And to get that, I'm going to have to create these things and make them happy. So,
Yeah, because it's I mean it's a good thing that Stephen Bartlett touches on quite a lot with his podcast guests, which I listen to a lot for inspiration, knowledge, learning. We share it all the time in Young and Lazy chat and getting out there in terms of sharing lessons. And I think it's something that so often highlighted, like how our childhood shapes also our reality as we grow older. Um, and now taking the kind of responsibility that your dad took when he was growing up, because I know something that you said, which is that your dad hadn't necessarily, like, you felt like he'd gave up portions of his life to provide for you.
the way I would look at it, and then to perfectly go into what you were saying, was my mum and dad split up, and my dad took the house on himself, and all me and my two brothers stayed with my dad. So my dad sacrificed everything. All he used to do was work 4 shifts on, 3 days off, 12-hour shifts. That was his whole life, just to pay the bills for us. So he missed out on all that time in his life, and now he's obviously got his disease. But it's not only that; it was seeing my own parents split up early in my childhood, and seeing what can happen if, like, you, like, maybe they should, I don't know their exact relationship, but knowing that I don't want that to happen for me. So learning from these experiences I had, and a big influence on me was my granddad. This here is his chain. I still wear it to this day because he's such a big influence on me. Like, he used to spoil me, basically. He got me every game console and stuff, but he taught me the good lessons in life, like how to treat people, like manners, and like, the as I get older, the more I realise the quality he had. So
Mhm.
I think your childhood and your upbringing is massive, and the people, and that's why I try and drill now into my brother who's 15 and recently has been, I would say, hanging about with the wrong people and getting involved in the wrong stuff. I'm trying to drill in how important it is to be around the right people, and how you're like the average of the people you surround yourself with, and all these things, because I've learned it firsthand now. And a good example of that as well is my best mate Brandon. He's trying to get into business now as well,
Yeah.
and he's now teaching his brother stuff that could let him get into business, or finding a way to get his brother to work on his business with him. So I think using your learnings, your upbringing, your experiences, all of it to come together and help people is what you should do.
So getting a silver medal in the Commonwealth, obviously that's one of your biggest kind of achievements in terms of as of recent. What is some of the other things that you've achieved so far?
So I'd say it's just an achievement to, like, I've competed in the countries I have. So Sweden, let's try and list them all. This could be funny. Sweden, Denmark, America, Romania, Italy, UK, Netherlands. Probably missing one or two, but
Yeah.
like, just being able to see America, that's such a big achievement for me,
Mhm.
because like, my family could never afford to go on that. So the fact that I got to go there for a video game, and I was with Ajax Football Club, staying in a 5-star villa when they were like, had their best season ever in the Champions League with all their superstars. So just being around these people, like, it was just amazing. Like, they paid for me to go to Universal Studios and all that, and go on all the roller coasters. Like, that was so good. I got to watch them train, standing talking to Van der Sar and Daley Blind. Like, it was just bizarre. So that's a big achievement for me, although it's not a tournament win, just going to these countries. And then in terms of tournaments, qualifying for the Premier League was my breakthrough sort of big thing. That was live on Sky Sports, representing a football club, Watford. So that was a great feeling, being on
Mm.
Sky Sports. Like, I remember you could bet on me playing, and that was just quite weird. And my mum, probably the only soul that bet on me, she put a fiver on me. Sorry, mum, your fiver's gone, but it was a good feeling just to be on the telly. Like,
Yeah.
I saw, like, in school, they were watching me on the TV. Like, my people were supporting me. I got to bring my cousin as my coach, which was good to let him see London. He'd never been to London before, so that was brilliant. The Commonwealth was a massive one, not just for me, but my friend Gary, who achieved the medal. I was coaching him. He'd been through a lot of struggles in lockdown. There was a lot of nights when me and him, I think at one point we both halved a subscription to the WWE network because it was an escape to our problems,
Mm.
looking back at all the nostalgia on WWE. So like we'd both been through really hard times. Gary got um, sacked from his job, and we had some family issues going on, and obviously the pandemic. So he was in a bad place, and I was in a bad place. So to see us a year or two later on a podium with a silver medal at the Commonwealth was amazing.
Absolutely.
Not just for the achievement of it and the first ever esports Commonwealth Games, it was more just seeing where my pal had came from and seeing him get successful. And then the other one would have been winning my spot for Scotland.
Yep.
And then on my debut for Scotland, I played against England. I was ranked over 1,000th in the world at the time. I played against number one England's player. I won. So taught me a good life lesson. And that was through when I was struggling with anxiety and eating and stuff like that. So just showing that I could, like a Rocky kind of story, whereas you had no chance of winning and you win.
Yeah.
And then you go to qualifying for the Nations Cup with Scotland, beating all these countries like Spain, Germany, England, Italy. Like being able to say I beat these countries and played 68 times for my country was amazing.
Yeah.
And then I think that's all the main ones. There's so much more to it, like so much failures as well, like being one game away from the E-Champions League. I coached in that as well, but there's a lot of regret there actually when I think about listing my achievements of like kind of what could have been. But I think these what could have beens have taught me lessons.
What do you think could have been?
Well, I've been one game away from qualifying for events 4 times, so that's tough knowing that you were getting a free trip abroad to play for thousands of pounds and all that. And probably my biggest regret is, like, I didn't know any better, but when I was stereotypically doing the game and then doing it all wrong, like, so FIFA 19, I was amazing. In my opinion, I was one of the best. I lost in the first couple of tournaments twice to make the tournaments, but I was better than most. And I was like, that was being amazing, but I didn't capitalize on it because I still didn't practice. I didn't, like, all my habits were wrong, basically. I'm wording this rubbish, but what I'm trying to say is I wish I knew what I did now back then, because I would not do it and I would probably have won tournaments or big things because I would have knew how to do it. But you can't be harsh on yourself because you need to learn the lessons before you apply them. And another one was the Premier League. I needed 1 point from one win from my last 2 games to go through, and I lost them both in the last minute with the last attack. And now I would just keep the ball to make sure I at least have extra time, but I would never have knew that back then. So I'd say my biggest regret now is not capitalising on my potential and how well I was doing by not doing the right things. And then last year when I didn't have time to play because of my work, it was like, okay, you've done well in FIFA. Like a lot of people would be given in to have done what you've done, but I don't think you've reached your potential. You've got a few years now where you can try it. I want to reach my potential because I won't be able to live myself if like I found out that I should have been a major winner or something like that. So that's why I'm still gaming. I could have just gave it up for business, but I feel like I've got unfinished business there, and I want to try and see what I can do when I'm eating the right things, in the right schedule, combining it with business, like working on my body at the same time, like self-development, doing everything right, using my experience to my advantage. Now I want to see how I can do. So trying to turn my regrets just now into fuel for the future.
What do you think you're going to achieve?
Put me on the spot there. See, the scarcity mindset's coming in there of my failures where I've came close, and I don't even want to say what I think I'm going to achieve because I don't know. But the only option is to give everything and know that I've given everything. I want to achieve my potential. I don't want to put a medal or a trophy on it. I just want to achieve my potential. If I can know that I gave 100% and I reached whatever I reached, that's an achievement for me now because I know that I've done it, and then I can move on to other things.
Absolutely, mate. What do you think, just to touch on that a little bit more, what do you think you need to do in order to reach your full potential in terms of like the kind of nitty gritty you touched on, obviously personal development and stuff like that, but what do you think you need to do on a day-to-day basis?
I think transform my body, because the lessons you'll learn from doing that is vital. Putting myself in uncomfortable situations so I know how to deal with them at the highest level playing FIFA, and having that confidence. I'm one of these people who think rationally. There's a lot of FIFA players who have like deluded confidence, who just always think they're the best no matter how the game's going. If I know I'm getting battered, I lose confidence. So it's like just getting rid of that and being confident and knowing that even if I'm losing, there's weight. Like I know how easily I can score a goal. So becoming more confident and not scared when I'm playing the best players, because I know I'm one of the best players, and I'll know that from the efforts I'm putting in and the results I'm getting. So having the data and stuff there to know that I'm good, and then using that to not be nervous, or because I've been around the block, if you want to put it like that. I've been in these situations, so I shouldn't be nervous in the situation.
Yeah.
The only thing that would make me nervous is my gameplay. So if I've got that nailed to a T, then I'll achieve my potential. So that's basically what I need to do.
What do you believe you need to do to get your gameplay nailed to a T?
Practice with a purpose and always work on it. Don't always rely on external feedback, because sometimes a lot of the time it's usually right, because mostly I go to my friend Mark, but I need to be able to recognise things myself as well, because I don't want to have to rely on him to find my mistakes. I'd rather find my own mistakes and he can find more, or things like that. So it's just like, it's not much. Like, everybody knows how to press the buttons on FIFA. It's all about finding the best things in the game. So playing against players better than me, just do what I always did, but do it right this time. So use every exploit I can to win within the rules, like all the overpowered stuff, like be doing that. If I'm 2-0 up in the 70th minute, you're not getting the ball back. Like, just respecting that I've earned that lead and I need to keep it away from them. It's business. Treat the gaming like business, I think I need to do to get the results.
What is some of the lessons that you've learned from being so close with Mark? Is something that you speak about quite a lot?
Just like, I won't go into detail, but Mark's been through some really tough stuff as well, and to see him come out the other side of stuff like that, it's been inspirational for me. And to see the stuff he's done, it shows me that there is potential for somebody in Scotland to do it. Like, when he became Premier League Xbox champion with me as a coach, like, seeing him do it as a player, believe me, I could do it, and playing with him for Scotland, like, you just kind of, although I've not been able to achieve what I wanted myself, he's been that person that I've seen do it, which gives me more motivation to do it as well. So the lessons you get around him are invaluable. Like, if FIFA wasn't a thing, he'd agree with me, we wouldn't be mates. Like, we support different football team, different music taste. We don't, like, anything you could think of, we're total opposite apart from FIFA. So it's like, I don't know, he's just a great person to be around. It's the same with Gary and Brandon. He's my, like, best mate away from FIFA. Like, you learn so much from the people you're around as a whole. So I think it's, like, important to really make sure you're around the right people.
Do you think Mark's learned from his older brother? And if anyone that doesn't know, Mark's older brother, it's Marley 13, and obviously produced the Scottish COD players, which anyone that's from Scotland that has played COD is most likely to watch those videos or seen those videos go viral. Do you think, is Mark ever shared with you lessons that he's learned from him from a content aspect, or is there anything that springs to mind?
Yeah, well, it's the same as you were saying, how you used to watch your cousin play. Mark would have watched his brother play, and they would have played together, and he would have seen his own brother's journey. So I know for a fact there's so many lessons he's learned there. And even me, I've learned lessons from Mark's brother, because we play in the same football team. We're fairly close as well, and he'll have 100% learned lessons from his brother. I think he has touched on that in podcast. But one thing I've took away from they two is, like, they're so family driven, and it was the opposite of me. I used to neglect my family to play tournaments. I've realised how bad that is. Like, family's everything to them, and to see it is powerful. So although it's not related to gaming, I think they've got good principles and good morals in life, and that is actually something to look at. I actually take more away from that than what I've learned in gaming. But I wouldn't have had the achievements I've had without Mark. Although a lot of the achievements I got was actually before I knew Mark, when I was very good on FIFA 19. Like, he coached me when I won the Scotland tournament, for example. If I didn't have him in my year, I don't think I would have did that. So I've learned a lot from Mark, and I'd like to think he's learned some stuff from me. Maybe not with gameplay, but some lessons there as well.
Yeah. And
plus, he's been through it all with me. Like, my family's been through it, like Brandon's been through it, but they don't play. I'm probably one of the few people that understands the struggles Mark's went through, and he understands the struggles I've been through. Same with Gary and stuff. So that's probably the biggest thing that me and Mark have in common, that we've both had really, really tough times, and we've both been there to get each other through it. When I was struggling in lockdown, I had him and Gary and our other friend Ian pushing me through and giving me things to deal with it. And then when Mark struggled, I'd do the same for him. And he's been open about this. He's tweeted about his struggles with mental health and stuff. So to help him through that the same way he's helped me has been good, and seeing him out the other side of it's amazing.
And the main thing I'm taking away from even just having this chat with you, mate, is the kind of supportive environment that you had built up, whether it was organically in terms of obviously having your family, but the kind of support that you'd built up around Mark and the other individuals that you're surrounded with doesn't necessarily surprise me from me getting to know you in terms of like your values, like what you actually value most. And I think also you shined the kind of light on that. And it's something that when I asked you a question back at the beginning, which I would hope that anyone listening to this would go away and answer it themselves, which is like, what is the main, it was either the main lesson or the main strength that you've leaned on that's obviously helped you move forward. It would definitely for me, man, what helped me move forward and what I truly leaned on was the people that I was surrounded with, not in a way that I was just like take in terms of like constantly asking them for things. It was just a matter of
You need to do that though. You need to take, but you need to give as well, and
absolutely.
that's certainly what you do. So
Yeah, and it's not something that I'll, especially those early stages, I was very much. If we were to really run it back, mate, like Ollie, who obviously is part of the network now, and it's had a massive impact on my life. Ollie helped me multiple times, like through the COD side of things, even introduced me to little things like little side hustles to make money on the side while gaming and stuff. And yeah, probably for a lot of our friendship, I was taking a lot of lessons from him naturally. Whereas now we're at a much equal playing field where we're helping each other move forward.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah,
such a good thing actually. Like that's actually one thing I absolutely love just now. So Brandon's been my best pal since he moved to Scotland in primary 7. For any people that's not Scottish, I don't know what year that is, maybe 11 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
And so we were just pals. We'd play football together, we'd play FIFA together, we'd mess around at school and all that. But now me and him are going on, we share our goals with each other every week, and we're trying to help each other improve. We're both doing the same things. We're going on walks and discussing how things are going. Like we're leaning on each other for support, and to see the people closest to you come on the journey with you is amazing. Because again, I've obviously seen Brandon have tough times, and he'll seen me have tough times. So to see him, and I also think you get great motivation from that. See, when I see Mark do well, it inspires me to try and do well more. When I seen Brandon, like he was in the gym every single day, smashing everything, and it was like, I need to up my game here. He's doing better than me. So it's like having the people closest to me and being like, they're doing well, but I need to match that.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to push each other forward. Like your circle's so important. So I think you're like, although that's not how I answered the question, I'll round it up by saying I actually totally agree with you. It's your circle is just so important.
Yeah, it's a healthy competition, something that inspires you, but not necessarily in a way that's like you're envious of the individual.
Yeah.
You're inspired.
Yeah, so my FIFA dream would be for me to play for Rangers and Mark to play for Celtic, and we'd play in the final of a major tournament. That's my dream, and trust me, when I play that game, I play like my life's on the line, and I'd love to win it, but it'd also be like a celebration of how far we've come to for us both to be there playing against each other for the clubs which we so badly wanted to play for. So that shows that it's healthy competition. I'd love for that, but as soon as that game started, it would be business, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Absolutely, mate. Well, I think we've touched on some fucking incredible areas, obviously, within this podcast. Is there anything in terms of what people could expect moving forward this year? Anything that you've obviously laid out in terms of what you want to achieve? Is there anything that people can expect from a content aspect or from anything at all?
So I'm going to be running my own FIFA coaching business, so there's definitely going to be a way where no matter what level you are, whether you're a casual FIFA player or a professional player, if you're looking to improve, there'll be things we can do together. You'll probably find that on my social medias, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok. Probably get on to have my own website as well. So FIFA coaching's one of my main avenues. I'm going to be competing again, and I'm going to stream absolutely everything I do on my Twitch in terms of competing. So if you want to get to know me a bit better, you'll see that on Twitch. You'll see me playing all my tournaments, doing all my stuff. TikTok, I'll have some things that I can help people improve, so gameplay tips or things to just get me to know me a bit better. Same with Twitter and Instagram, I'll be putting stuff on there. But if you want to know me, get some behind the scenes, Instagram's there, I'll be sharing stories on there. Twitter, I'll be more treating it like my CV and putting things that I need to put out.
Yeah.
I'm on LinkedIn as well, but yeah, the main thing's my FIFA coaching business, and I'm now going to be streaming pretty much daily, so people will get to know me a lot better and get to see what I'm doing.
Love that, mate. I'm excited to see what you achieve, bro. And honestly, this episode's been fucking class, man. We've covered so much juicy shit, mate, that's going to provide so much value to absolutely everyone listening, mate. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.